do we need God to be moral? Well, I want to start with a little history lesson in atheism. We'll start with the philosophies. Actually, we'll end there too. The philosophies were a group of philosophers. Hume, Voltaire, Kant, Rousseau. Anyways, they coined the term Renaissance, and they were the fathers of philosophical atheism. They were basically the first group of men to vocally reject organized religion and the philosophical ideas theology stands for. And obviously they moved towards naturalism, materialism, and even nihilism. So what's interesting is most of them, specifically Voltaire, still acknowledge that there's a huge problem of evil and morality in the world. He's coined saying that if God doesn't exist, then people would have to invent him. So what he meant by that is, in essence, God serves a necessary role in the way humans interact with each other regarding their moral standing with one another. Now, that doesn't mean he accepted the reality of God. He just acknowledged there is a huge problem of morality within the atheist school of thought. Now, basically all of them acknowledged this, and there were really just a couple options in what direction you could go. You'd have to create some sort of diplomatic decree of morality, human-made morality, because society still needs to function. Or I believe Diderot argued that you can take morality from nature and see what, how people observe people interacting and deduce what is moral behavior from that and what is preferable from that. That has inherent problems, obviously. Or you can completely reject the very concept of morality and good and evil. So, interestingly, there was a guy that did this. His name was Sade, and he took that third option to its logical conclusion, to the very horror of these philosophies. You might have heard of Sade because his name is literally the root origin for sadism. And he wrote 120 Nights of Sodom, and he also lived his rejection of morality. He basically said, there's absolutely no laws governing me. I am my own moral actor, and I do as I please. So he raped a bunch of men and women and tortured them. I lay all this out because the question of, do we need God to be moral, is kind of the wrong question. Obviously we don't, because those other philosophies didn't do those horrible things, but Sade did. So the question isn't, do we need God to be moral? The question is, can we know what moral is without God? And I'll take this from Zacharias. Basically, if we agree that there's good and evil, that means there's morality. And if there's morality, there must be a moral lawgiver. And the moral lawgiver must be God, because otherwise the morality isn't objective and it's not a real standard of morality, and good and evil are arbitrary and derived from humans, which even the philosophies agreed is a problem. Even more modern people like Bertrand Russell agree that there's a huge issue of how humans can have objective morality without the existence of God. So the real question is, like I said, it's not whether we can be moral without God, it's how do we know that we are moral without God? I guess one is tempted to say that we know because we have this feeling that we get if we do something wrong. But many of us don't have that feeling. You might tell yourself that you would feel bad if you murdered an innocent human being, but you don't actually know that you would. And you can't really base your morality on feelings and the way what your mind tells you to feel from the inside out. There has to be some sort of unifying, objective structure of ethics, or else things collapse and we get subjective morality and anyone can do anything that they want. So, sure, you can throw away God, but where does your morality come from? that mushy feeling inside that some of us don't have. That's very dangerous. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed that. I did record a much longer video about my conversion to Christianity, where I go into this point again, but I wanted to give it its own little video because it's a very fun subject to talk about, especially after being an atheist for 20 years. Take care.